I did everything right. I answered every text within seconds. I adjusted my entire life to fit hers, and I treated her like an absolute queen. And that was my fatal mistake. If you think treating a woman perfectly is how you keep her, you are tracking a map that leads straight to heartbreak. Let me explain the brutal psychology of why she actually walked away. Because what I learned from this wreckage completely shattered everything I thought I knew about human nature. When the relationship ended, I spent weeks locked in my own head, looking back, trying to find the exact moment I failed. I looked for the arguments, the mistakes, the slip-ups, but there weren't any. It was completely seamless. And that's when the truth hit me, and it hit me hard. She didn't leave because I treated her badly. She left because I treated her too well. I gave her a world with absolutely no friction. And in doing so, I accidentally destroyed the very ground attraction needs to stand on. Human beings are hardwired with a bizarre, almost self-destructive psychological flaw. We do not value things that are handed to us for free. We simply cannot appreciate what requires zero effort. Think about it. If you win a cheap plastic trophy just for showing up, you throw it in the closet and forget about it. But if you have to sweat, bleed, and fight for a championship title, you frame it on your wall forever. You protect it because it cost you something to get it. By becoming the perfect, always available, always agreeing partner, I inadvertently turned myself into that participation trophy. I became a default setting in her life. I removed all the mystery, all the challenge, and all the anticipation. I made my love, my attention, and my validation so cheap and abundant that its market value dropped to absolute zero. I was always there, a guaranteed safety net, and nobody fights to keep a safety net. They only use it when they are falling. Here is a hard pill to swallow, and it took me a long time and a lot of sleepless nights to accept it. Attraction does not survive in a state of constant peace. Comfort is great for companionship. It is wonderful for a predictable retirement, but it is the silent, unnoticeable killer of raw romantic desire. When a relationship becomes completely flat, the mind begins to drift. Human behavioral science backs this up completely. The human brain is driven entirely by emotional variation and contrast. People don't want toxicity. They don't want abuse. But they subconsciously crave the emotional roller coaster of anticipation. They want the dynamic tension. They want the dopamine spike of wondering what you're thinking, the slight anxiety of not knowing if you're going to text back instantly, and the immense, rewarding rush when you finally do. It is the classic reward system of the subconscious mind. We are addicted to the pursuit, not the catch. When I gave her 100% certainty, 100% of the time, I flatlined her emotions. I turned off her reward center. The relationship became a predictable script, a movie she had already watched 10 times. She knew exactly what I would say, how I would react, and exactly where I would be at any given hour of the day. I thought I was building safety and stability, but in reality, I was building boredom. And in the psychology of romance, boredom is a far bigger emergency than conflict. Conflict shows there is still something to fight for. Boredom means the fire is completely dead. The moment you put someone on a pedestal, they have no choice but to look down on you. There is no other dynamic possible. Every time I canceled my plans with my friends to hang out with her, every time I let her choose the restaurant, even when I hated the food, and every time I suppressed my own opinions and swallowed my pride just to keep the peace, I wasn't being kind. I was signaling a complete lack of self-worth. I was telling her that her world mattered, and mine didn't. Subconsciously, she started to realize the math didn't add up. She thought, if this guy values me way more than he values himself, then his internal value must be lower than mine. And the moment a woman feels she has completely outgrown your strength, the attraction evaporates. A partner doesn't want a fan who is just lucky to be sitting in the front row of the stadium. They want someone who feels like a prize they had to work to win. Someone whose respect must be continuously earned. By treating her like a goddess, I forced her to treat me like a subject. I handed her the crown and then wondered why she looked down at me from the throne. And nobody, absolutely nobody, is romantically attracted to a subject. They might pity them, they might deeply appreciate them, but they will never truly desire them, because desire doesn't flow downward. It looks upward. It craves the strength it hasn't fully conquered yet. By making myself completely compliant, I stripped away every single ounce of my own mystery, leaving her with a partner who was entirely safe, entirely predictable, and entirely uninspiring. So, what is the real lesson here? Am I telling you to become a cold, toxic jerk? Am I telling you to lie, play cheap mind games, or treat people with cruelty just to keep them hooked? Absolutely not. That is the path of absolute weakness, and it only attracts deeply broken people. Mind games are for boys who are terrified of being seen for who they really are. You don't need to manipulate emotions when you actually possess genuine substance. Becoming toxic is just another form of reacting to her, another way of letting her actions dictate who you are. True power doesn't look to hurt or dominate. It simply refuses to compromise its own inherent worth. The real lesson is about boundaries, self-respect, and unshakable emotional independence. True attraction requires an element of friction. It requires two independent worlds colliding with massive force, not one world completely dissolving into the other until it disappears entirely. When you have your own high-level goals, your own relentless schedule, and your own unshakable boundaries, you naturally create that healthy, magnetic scarcity. You don't have to fake being busy. You are genuinely busy building your own empire. You don't have to fake being distant. You are simply fiercely, relentlessly focused on your daily execution. A man who is moving toward a massive purpose is naturally attractive because his attention is a limited resource, and people value what is rare. She left because I stopped being the man she had to actively earn and became the convenient assistant she took completely for granted. I stopped leading and started serving, and that is a critical mistake I will never ever make again in my life. I traded my masculine drive for relationship security, and in the process, I lost both. I became the person who managed her life instead of the man who inspired it. And you cannot expect someone to desire the person they handle like a utility. If you are going through this exact situation right now, if you are staring at a completely blank phone wondering where it all went wrong, stop blaming yourself for loving deeply. Loving deeply is a profound superpower, but you must start analyzing how you distribute that massive power. Pick yourself up off the floor, take yourself completely off her schedule, and put your own life back at the absolute dead center of your universe. Rebuild your value from the absolute ground up. Become an independent, unstoppable force again. Let this pain be the precise fuel that drives your self-mastery. If this psychological breakdown opened your eyes, and if you're ready to stop bending your knee to people who take your presence for granted, hit that subscribe button. Welcome to Leverize. Let's level up together. Comment your thoughts below. I read every single one.